I don't enter as a marketeer. I enter as a consumer. We know that we are the leading player in the kids, and I used to think that in retail, actually, festive is the biggest. But unlike FMCG, actually, EOS is the biggest period for retail.
Welcome to Flamcast, a space where we dive into everything marketing, mixed reality, and the future of creating unforgettable brand experiences. Today, we have Sunil Chouhan, Head of Brand Experiences at Max Fashion India. He has over 15 years of work experience and have worked across diverse categories like FMCG, D2C, and retail. He has built his career at the intersection of strategy, creativity, and flawless execution. Today, we will be talking about everything retail marketing and how to create immersive and engaging experiences for consumer in store. We will also talk about data not just for accuracy but to build human first brand in digital world. Sunil, welcome to the show. Welcome to Flamcast. We are really happy to have you here.
Thank you so much.
I'm really excited to discuss about retail marketing. It has been one of the topic I have not touched upon so much in my career and in terms of reading as well. So you have worked in D2C, you have worked in FMCG as well, now in retail marketing. How do you think retail marketing is different from any other sector and category you have worked with?
The most unique thing about retail marketing is store is your first touch points, and this is the biggest touch point you can imagine. Versus if I talk about, let's say, D2C or FMCG brands, where you have to focus a lot on brand building, product, innovations, versus retail marketing is a lot about store, because that's where the marketing starts, and if you fix that, half of the job is done. So that's the biggest and the most unique thing about retail marketing. And the second is having that understanding and deep data pool, which you have the control and you can actually measure a lot of things, which is currently not so much into the FMCG zone.
Okay. So when you talk about store as the first touch point, as a customer, when I walk into a retail store, my first thing that I notice is the layout of the store.
Sure.
Where are the pile of clothes I have to go to, where are the section for kids and men and women. But as a marketer, I always look for branding elements that is there in the store. What is the first thing as marketer that catches your attention when you enter into a retail store?
So the first thing actually is when I enter, I don't enter as a marketeer. I enter as a consumer, because unless I put my foot in the consumer shoes, I will not be able to understand what I need to deliver to them. So I will always think from as a consumer's point of view. Let's say how consumer is going inside the store. So the entire shopper journey should actually be the visualization in my mind.
Okay.
And then I look at in terms of that if consumer is going to the store, whether my store is boldly visible or not, whether this is clearly calling out what brand needs to communicate from outside, and when they go inside, they should feel the wow factor. They should feel there's something different, there's something fresh about this brand, and that vibe has to come. So I think that's what consumers look for, and that's what we also look for.
So consumer look for, as you said, consumer look for the wow elements.
Right.
Yeah. And something different from the other retail stores.
Yeah.
Do you think that differentiation has been created in retail fashion stores for the consumer? Because I'm not, to be very honest, I'm not offline buyer. I'm a completely 100% online buyer for myself. But for my child, for my kid, I do go to retail store and buy. But I don't see that differentiation coming in the retail store. Like one store is different in terms of layout, in terms of branding is different from the other store. If somebody is talking about sale, like this percent off or the layout of the store,
Right.
it is almost similar. So how do you create that wow element for your customer in store?
Yeah, you are absolutely right. In fact, in India at least, there are so many brands, and they're actually just trying to copy each other in terms of creating that experience for your brand. They look pretty much similar now, and there's hardly any differentiation, like you rightly put. But there are brands who are doing it better, and I would say that if you go up in the ladder, if you go to the premium segment, you will find better differentiation because they have a story to talk about it. For example, if you go to Uniqlo store, they will talk about the innovation, they will talk about the life here and how this is actually being made, and this is how it is going to help you in your daily wear. So such stories are actually not very common in India, at least, because right now the situation actually is everybody is targeting the segment where consumers are actually upgrading to a branded set of brands, and therefore that value segment actually is becoming so cluttered that everything looks like very same to each other. Whether this is Zudio or Max or Style Up, Style Union, Usta, everything looks very similar. As you go up in the ladder, when there's a story to tell by a brand, they will start differentiating because they have a story to talk about it, and that's not very common in India, at least in the in apparel.
In the entry level brands.
Yeah.
So how you're creating differentiation in consumer mind? Why should consumer go to a Mac store versus any other store?
Right.
Say?
So it all started with our roots, and what do we really stand for,
Okay.
and therefore the story comes from there for us. So compared to many other brands, we know that our strength lies in family and kids as a segment.
Okay.
And we know that we are the leading player in the kids, and this is the top of most brand for any family and people who have kids. That Max is the first interaction for them in their offline journey, at least to begin with. So this is one hook for us. Second is it's a Dubai-based brand, so naturally it has an international vibe. It has some connect from the international point of view, and therefore, I mean, these two hooks are very strong for us to really talk about it. And when you actually go inside the store, when you go to the store, you feel the differentiation, that the experience is different. At the same time, it is so warming and it is so welcoming because it is actually made for everyone in the family. And that differentiation you will not see in the brands in the similar price range.
Okay, I'm sure, Sunil, you will have access to a lot of data. Now, coming from what you were talking about, do you really feel that consumer knows about that this brand is from Dubai or is considered as an Indian brand? For the longest time, for me, Bata was an Indian brand.
Right.
And for when I had a first interaction with Max Fashion, I thought it's an Indian brand.
Yeah.
Of course, later on, when you read a lot about the other, the parent group and all of that, then you get to know it's a Dubai-based brand. Do you think the customer of Max are so evolved, and this is one of the factors that it's a Dubai-based brand leading them to buy from Max?
I would say it's not the biggest factor.
Okay.
I would still stick to the point that the biggest factor actually is that we are for everyone. We have that range. We are for and we are very strong in kids. International brand, definitely this is something which we need to build, but it's not very easy also. Unless actually it is a brand which connects with the ethos of that country, it becomes very difficult. But yeah, a few set of people would know about it, but the mass would not know about it. But it's our job to, in a way that when they come to the store, we actually create that kind of experience for them to really understand that, okay, this doesn't look like an Indian brand.
Yeah. So in fashion, it's so important to belong your brand to an international heritage than Indian brand. But when I used to work with Vivo Mumbai, the only purpose was to make Vivo as an Indian brand, not as a Chinese brand in consumers' mind.
Sure.
Moving on, Sunil, you have worked with Kantar Group. You started your career in consumer insight. Then you moved to a brand side. What, why, and how the experience have been, and why you made this decision of moving from consumer insight to brand, because both are different worlds.
Right. So it actually starts from why I first chose consumer insights, because I was actually quite obsessed with consumers and numbers, of course. And I thought this is the right platform for me to really understand, because now if I think about how all the brands are doing marketing, it all starts from consumers. Everybody talks about consumer centricity, right? And this is actually something which I imbibed from Kantar. And then moving to brand and the brand experience, actually, it completes the entire circle for me from thinking to execution. And that understanding actually is rare in most of the people, because either they have a sales background or they have a pure brand management background. But I think that exposure really helps me to understand that, okay, what do we need to do for this brand from the consumer's point of view? And therefore, what kind of experience we can create for that consumer. So it's not easy for sure. But I believe that retail, especially because they owned that level of data, and therefore there is a lot of scope to create a lot of insights. And that thinking actually is very, very important for all of us.
So I also started my career in consumer insight. I used to work with Nielsen, and then I worked with Ipsos. And then I moved to brand marketing with Vivo. So the only intent was, I couldn't understand what do they do with the insight. How did they make this insight come alive in their brand strategies? So that I was very curious to know about that. When I went to Vivo as a brand manager, the circle got completed for me.
Absolutely. And there are not many brands and not many people who really know how to use insights.
Yeah.
Sometimes it is just to fill their or create the story which they want, but that's not the right way.
Tick box for them. Like, and move
True.
on with their gut feeling.
Absolutely.
So I've seen there's a lot of footfall during sale season, like summer sales and the winter sale in a retail outlet.
Yeah.
How do you keep the momentum on during off season?
So two things actually. For any brand, sales become the biggest lever for them to pull the customers. Uh, for us also, we call it end of season sale, which happens, let's say, twice a year. Those are the periods when there is a maximum footfall which is happening naturally, because we are talking about consumers, Indian consumer psyche, and how they are actually evolving in their journey. So that offering actually is the first tick for any consumer, that there is an offer, so let's go out and let's shop, whether this is online or offline. I think those two are the biggest season for to drive footfall of the business. Then comes the festive. Actually, initially I used to think that in retail actually festive is the biggest, but unlike FMCG, actually EOSS is the biggest period for retail. Festive, I would say that now there are a lot of change in the thinking for a lot of retail brands. Now they trying to move away from the offers, from the discounts, because they know that this is not going to create a stickiness for consumer, and they are not going to win those consumers in the long term. So there's a lot of change which is happening. At least I understand that from the Max point of view, and a lot of other brands, they are changing that mindset, because ultimately they don't want to kill the margin, but they want to create the pull and not really the push through discounts. So that's changing, that's evolving. I think maybe another couple of years things will look very different.
Okay. So there's a change in consumer habit post-pandemic
Right.
as well. People are going to more digital website, and the digital first habits are emerging more strongly. How does Bax keep them alive during those times?
I think again, there's a huge shift which is emerging, and I feel that this is like a dawn of new experience, which is coming, and not just from the retail point of view, but overall we see around that everybody wants to experience things. They want to go out, they want to socialize, meet new people, or go out, explore new places, or even from the shopping perspective, they intend to go out. Obviously, there's a convenience in online ordering, but when you have the nudge to really go out, touch and feel, because humans always love the senses, right? So you will go out, right? And that's the thing which is working for retail now, because even the brands like Licious or Wakefit have started getting into the stores, into the brick and mortars, because they have realized that without touch and feel, consumers don't really have that kind of emotions attached to the product. So I think in long term, that balance will always be there. It is going to be omniworld we are talking about. Retail has to evolve from the digital point of view, and the D2C has to evolve from the retail point of view. So that balance will go on, and there is no cannibalization, I feel, from the online or offline perspective. As we move forward, I think for us, retail, the competition will be retail only, not really the online.
Okay. Now, coming to the storytelling at retail stores. Like I said, I'm a avid shopper, online shopper, and there are a lot of homegrown brands that have come in. There are a lot of like other websites that have come in other than Myntra and Ajio that I shop from. So there's a lot of storytelling that happens there, sustainability, the fabric quality, and so on and so forth.
Right.
How do you keep the storytelling alive in the retail store? And is it even important for the consumers?
It is important for sure, but I think, like I said, retail actually is somewhere you know that what you are doing, whether this is successful or not, you can always measure, because you are sitting on a data, you're sitting on a lot of data. In terms of storytelling, we know that from the marketing point of view, it's a lot of brand building. So when you want to prove that you want to create that story in a store, you have to show the ROI also at the same time, because that's how hard from the retail marketing point of view. So yes, certain brands do try storytelling also through different technologies or through the campaigns which they want to do. But in a way, I feel that in store is also has some limitations, because you don't want to divert the consumers from product buying and just telling the story. They actually come to the store to buy the product ultimately, because that's the ultimate goal. Storytelling can only help you to distinguish your brand in consumers' mind. So there is some limitations from the store perspective, but there are a lot of scope and opportunities outside the store which the brands do to create that story.
Okay, so moving from storytelling, like you said that you would want Max to be seen as an international brand because the parent brand is from Dubai. So how do you make Max look like a culturally relevant, or to give a culturally relevant experience to the consumer who are coming to shop from Max? Like, is the store in Delhi is different from the store in Tamil Nadu, because they're completely different markets. So how do you make that happen?
So yeah, I think it's pretty interesting question because from consumers' point of view, we also need to show the consistency.
Correct.
Let's say
Absolutely.
a Starbucks or Uniqlo or Max from that
Mm.
perspective, they want to show all their 500 plus stores looking same.
Yeah.
So there won't be any single element from the execution point of view which will be different for Tamil Nadu or Delhi stores. They will look definitely similar.
Yeah.
Coming to the point that how do you really, how do you bring the cultural storytelling? That comes from the campaigns which the brand's trying to build. So that's where my point is that it is not just the store which plays the storytelling part, but there are a lot of platforms or third spaces where you actually create the story. So one of the example actually is during festive couple of years back. And festive actually is the center of the cultural relevance stories which we see, and a lot of brands actually try to participate now. So we created a story about Bomala Kolavu in AP, and we knew that Hyderabad is one of the critical market for us. How do we crack? How do we actually win the market?
Mm-hmm.
So the entire idea was during Dasara, that region actually celebrates Dasara with something they call Bomala Kolavu, which
Okay.
is actually amalgamation of a lot of dolls coming together, and they create a good sensory in each of their homes, and probably it's a community exercise. So taking that inspiration from that region, from that specific market, we created that from the fashion's point of view in one of the places. So we knew that this was not possible in store, so we created this in a mall. Now mall actually connects with the store in a way, so we know that people will connect. At the same time, the story came alive in that space when we actually put the right fashion from that storytelling perspective, and we actually put 100 mannequins to create the entire story and connect with the people through culture and through those cultural hooks. So that is one of the way to bring that synergy. But like I said, actually store has limitations from that point of view.
And now coming to one of the competitors for Max's
Right.
Zudio. It is started in 2017, has over 900 plus stores in India now, and they are doing really good business.
Right.
So how Max has taken, I believe the target consumer are more or less similar, if not same. And how does Max is tackling that competition in the
Sure, I think it's a big disruption in the value segment for sure, because they, and then there's a huge story in terms of how they actually brought the entire brand, the timing, the product, and coming from Tata's point of view, and you actually have a learning from Zara. So there's a huge story that how this became successful. Cut short, I think it is providing a good product at a value price, and at the same time, the timing was very crucial when actually the COVID hit, and they actually started opening the store when actually every other business was actually reducing and shutting, because that's where the challenge was for most of the brands. But they spent money and they created more stores. And imagine that a consumer is going out to buy sees that there is a store which is actually providing certain kind of an apparel and fashion which is becoming old, but there is a fresh store which comes with a fresh identity and fresh kind of a thought process. People try to go and visit and get attracted to that. So they did that without marketing, and that's their success story. But the point is, every brand has their own life cycle. So whether this is Max or Pantaloons or Uniqlo or any other brand, when they actually enter to a market, there is a growth path for sure, and which is happening. But now we also see that it is tapering, right? Whether this is actually the performance point of view, or they're standing in the public market, I think the numbers tells the story. So they are tapering because the story actually is, even if I have been to Zudio and I have bought products couple of times, but I have realized, and this is because as a marketing, I should understand what they are selling. I have realized that after one or two wash, it doesn't really sustain or have the same look which you intend to had. So great fashion, but it comes at a value price, and therefore the value offering also.
I think the first time I saw Zudio, I was really attracted to the minimalist design that they have. They have positioned, the store looks very premium. And when you enter the store, the cost is very, very, very less.
Right.
So initially, I did not even know that it is backed by Tata. It is by a Tata product. But I was very curious to know. And they have, I think the store location has been very well decided because they are at the right places, near to the colleges, near to the apartments. So I think that they have done wonderfully.
Yeah, because like you said, because they are very clear in terms of target audience. Most of the college students actually are their first target group, and that's where they hang out, and then that's how it is. But I think it's just time realization happens.
I don't think college students do care about if the piece of clothes they are buying, they're going to last them for years.
They just need it for 5-6 months, so they're happy with that.
They're happy with that. Absolutely. Now, moving on, how do you measure whether your creative ideas and size store are truly driving customer engagement or sales per se?
So I think that's the beauty of retail marketing, and that's the beauty of focusing on the store. So anything which we do has a connect with store, and therefore it is important that we measure everything. So there are two ways to look at it. Let's say even if I'm doing an ATL campaign, I know that I will go. I have different strengths in south versus north versus south, so I will create my campaign basis that.
Okay.
The beauty actually is that I have stores everywhere, and let's say if I'm doing a campaign in Hyderabad versus Bangalore, I will try and experiment that if I increase the reach of the frequency in Hyderabad versus Bangalore, how much delta I'm going to create in Hyderabad. And the results actually are people who are coming to the stores, people who are engaging, and people who are buying. So because of the excess of this data, actually it becomes very clear for us that measurement is crucial, and it is easy. It's just the mindset that you have to have that if you are doing something, then we have to measure. And the beauty is, like I said, I think having the excess of data makes the work a little easy for us to understand that whether this has worked or not.
Okay. Okay. Now, coming to understanding how mixed reality and AI, basically tech, is changing the retail space. I feel mixed reality is a very good use case for retail marketing. But I want to understand from you, mixed reality gives you immersive experience. How do you see mixed reality changing the customer experience at retail stores?
Yeah. So what I have seen from the mixed reality perspective in India actually is quite niche right now, and actually uh, brands are using it, but using it more tactically than actually more for storytelling right now. So even if I take an example of one of the apparel brand actually is putting a screen, AR screen, where they actually try the product and they can understand whether this is looking good or not. But after a point, I mean, one is easy to copy. Second is unless you are creating the story about it, it is just a gimmick. So that's where I think there's a leap of faith the brand has to take and connect with the brand purpose and connect with the brand story so that it becomes more meaningful. But I think this will evolve, and that's where the brands can leverage it in a right way.
So when you talked about the screen for trials,
Right.
are we talking about Isha Ambani's venture where they have smart screen trials
Right.
and fashion discovery zones, and
Right.
they're also doing for Tira, I think they also have fragrance finders, skin analyzer. So they're using AI extensively.
Right.
So this kind of position, these stores are way ahead of the other retail stores.
Sure.
So if you have to do a campaign with mixed reality, or you have to integrate mixed reality in one of your campaigns, one of your ads, how would you want to do that? Or in the retail experience per se?
Sure. So, I mean, like I said, that actually to make it more meaningful, we have to connect with the consumers from a storytelling point of view. So, just an example, let's say if we have to use the mixed reality, we will talk about the entire connect from the sourcing to the stitching to understand that how the entire product is coming live. And create that story about the brand that this is something which you want to showcase, that there's a lot of effort which has gone behind these products. And that kind of happiness when you see in consumers mind that they really see and understand the story. I think that's the magic which we can bring alive. And so yes, I think there are a lot of potential from the mixed reality point of view. I just that we need to understand that how best we can leverage it and create the right story, because unless it comes or it connects with the brand, it looks very tactical. It just looks like an experience which you're giving to the consumers, because end of the day, everybody can copy it.
So now coming to retail, brands are sitting on the gold mine of data already.
Sure.
How do you ensure that we are using the data to the maximum potential?
Right. Two things actually here again. That one is you should have that culture internally that you need to really make your decision basis the data which we have. And therefore you need to build a team, you need to build that culture, you need to have that kind of leadership who really believes in that. That is point number one, because I have seen different real landscape where some brands have the data but they are not using it, they're not using it meaningfully, versus some brands who are really getting into the data so deep that they talk about each and every customers. I can talk about, let's say, one of the brands in mattress industry, which is Wakefit. Every week actually they choose one most disgruntled consumer, and they actually understand the problem for them. And because they have the access to NPS, they have the access to data, so they understand the entire journey of the shopper and where is the basic problem and to solve that. So that is one way to really use the data. The second way is what we see and what we do actually is, since there is a huge data, you first have to understand that what is an average mass audience doing versus what is an outlier doing. Once you find out the outlier, actually that's where the magic really comes, that this is something which can create the story for the brand. This is something which is showing a new insight for the brand. So it's all about having the right team and right mindset and a plan that what do you want to do it with the data. Otherwise, I think data is huge, but unless you use it, there's no point.
Now, moving on to some other questions, like across the work you have done so far in FMCG, D2C, and retail as well, what's something you have learned about people, how people really connect with brands in retail environment?
So, like I said, actually, retail is a touch point which is very, very interesting because a lot of things can happen on that touch point. So there is definitely a focus in terms of connecting with people through storytelling. And it's not just retail like retail brands as such, but even if you look at brands like in Alcobev,
Yeah.
since there are now more experiential stores which are opening up,
Absolutely.
so the brand started telling stories there also. One of the wonderful actual example actually is Talisker as a brand. So they have a huge story about sea and the sea waves and therefore the entire taste actually is because of the distillery being at the seaside, right?
Absolutely.
And then that aspect in the product is very clear when somebody's really experiencing the product. But they also brought that story alive in the store in the right space when actually somebody is going near to that zone where the telescope bottles are kept. They actually can hear the waves of sea. And that's another example of mixed reality and how do you actually bring it alive.
Yeah.
And so it's actually quite an interesting space for consumers to feel and experience the product. So I think that's where the magic of retail is there.
For everyone who's listening to us, if somebody has to win in retail, what is one mind shift that is required that can make a big impact in their journey?
So I feel that and somebody who wants to really win the consumers in retail, the focus has to be about store. That's actually the first thing which we should realize that and that is something which is very crucial because that's actually the face of the brand. And unless you maintain that, unless you actually create a story there, it becomes useless. So I think that's the biggest learning.
Okay. Now, Sunil, I want to dive into your personal space. Like 15 years you have been into marketing. What made you win in marketing?
So, like I said, actually, I think this entire journey for me, which is starting from consumer insights to brand experience, this is something which is crucial for me from the learning point of view. And this is something which I tell to everyone also that you should explore different facades of marketing. Whether this is actually, there are a lot of people who talk about sales and marketing, which is also very important, product innovation, whether this is insights or actually what's happening on ground. And I have a personality which actually goes deeper into whether this is data or whether this is actually the execution. So that actually really helps me to find out what's really happening and therefore what do we need to do to solve that. But this is really important from marketing point of view that you actually understand the entire idea of marketing, which is not just brand management, but you need to experience everything, that how consumers are connecting with you, how consumers are reading about you, how are they sensing about your brand, and therefore how are they picking your product. So unless we understand that, it is very difficult for otherwise it's very boring. Otherwise marketing is very boring, just creating campaigns, shoot and put it on TV or
I really
OTT.
find it interesting. It's super interesting for me to do all of it.
Sure.
Of course, to understand the data and to use that data in your brand communication as
Right.
well. What are the 3 top books you would want to recommend to a marketer?
So I would actually recommend one book which is written by Jenny Ruckman in Australia.
Okay.
The book actually is about how brands grow, and I think it's released around 5-6 years back before COVID, and there are 2 parts to it. And this actually beautifully describes that for a brand to grow, the first point actually is that you have to recruit more consumers. And this is in a way a little difficult for a retail marketer to adjust and to digest because since retail marketing is all about data, they have the huge pool of data. So they will mostly focus on what they have as a database, which is you connect with those consumers which you have and you actually try to deliver more through them. You actually try to bring the customers back to the store. Versus that book actually talks about that recruitment is a leaky bucket. So unless you get more people, more new acquisitions, you are not going to win the game because people who are coming to your brand tomorrow will go to other brands.
Yeah.
And that's how they actually bring the entire science in that book and talk about that recruitment is all about mental availability and physical availability, and you actually build that. And that's an interesting idea, but the entire book is quite interesting from that point of view.
Some top blogs that you want to recommend to people for everyday read.
Okay. I think people listen to podcasts more than reading blogs. And I think this is one of the beautiful platform which you have actually created, and people will be finding it more interesting to really listen to it, because I think that's a shift in consumer psyche also, that
Yeah.
they listen more than reading.
Yeah. Thank you so much, Sunil. It has been a pleasure listening to you and hearing your insights on everything retail marketing. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Nidhi. I think this was really interesting conversation, and I think it's just a learning for all of us that how the marketing is evolving with the technology, with the mixed reality, and how do we best leverage the technology to win the consumers. Thank you.
Thank you so much.